Well, good morning, friends, neighbors, fellow Christians, Bible students everywhere. Let me welcome you to another short video, and I thank you for the time that you take to watch this. And I know time is rare, seems like anymore, but I really do appreciate your time and the good comments that I've been receiving regarding these little short videos where we are debunking the false doctrines presented in the video by Whitsett. And we want to look this morning, as try to get woke up. We want to look at his third argument from the little video that he put out, specifically to me. And that is that Daniel 7, the vision there, is referring to Christ's ascension. Okay, the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven. And he argues that this is the ascension in Acts chapter 1. Again, this is another one of those typical objections that nearly everybody raises to avoid the words of Jesus in the Olivet Discourse. So we're going to look at Daniel 7. So we're going to go there. And as we look at this, and I'm not going to take the time to read all of this, you can do that on your own time. Read it. If you're not familiar with the text, read it, reread it, go over it again and again till you become very familiar with this chapter. What I want to show you is, we'll just go into this view here. I want to show you that there are two divisions in this chapter. Okay, you have verses 1 through 14, actually 15. This is the dream, the vision itself, down through verse 14. Verse 15, he says, I was grieved in my spirit. Okay, in verse 16, an angel comes, and now notice this, he made known unto me the interpretation. So from verses 17 through the end of the chapter is the interpretation of the previous verses. Okay, so what that means is the elements that we find in the dream must correspond with the interpretation, and the interpretation that's given must correspond with the dream. Okay, so it's the dream is, there's 4 beasts that he sees that come up out of the sea. They're all different. So there's a lion, a bear, a leopard, and then there's this 4th beast that is dreadful and terrible. It's very strong. It has great iron teeth, and it devours, breaks in pieces, and stamps the residue with the feet. And again, it was different. It was diverse from all the beasts before it, and it had 10 horns. So this is significant. It has 10 horns, this 4th beast. Now, in the interpretation, it is pointed out that the 4th beast is the 4th kingdom. Okay, see this right here? The 4th beast shall be the 4th kingdom upon the earth. Okay, very simple. That's the interpretation that's given. Therefore, the 10 horns that he sees are 10 kings in this kingdom, in this 4th kingdom. Okay, the 10 horns out of this kingdom, the 4th kingdom, are 10 horns. Okay, and another, that's the little horn. Okay, right here. Okay, the little horn. Now, this is when, in the vision, that he sees that thrones were cast down. Some versions say set up. You can check other translations. But anyway, thrones were cast down or set up, and the Ancient of Days did sit. Okay. Then this is where he sees a fiery stream come forth from before him. Thousands, that's literally myriads of myriads. Okay, 10,000s of 10,000s ministered to him. 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The judgment was set and the books were opened. Okay, and that's pretty clear. This is talking about the judgment, when the thrones would be set and the Ancient of Days the thrones are set, cast down. The Ancient of Days sits, the judgment was set, the books were opened. Okay, now, this is when that the great words were spoken by the little horn, and the Son of Man comes with the clouds of heaven, and the Ancient of Days, he came too. Now that's one of the things where they really hone in on right here. They say this has to be that he was going up if he comes to the Ancient of Days. Okay, but I'm not even going to waste time on that right now because we're going to show you some other things to look at. The Son of Man comes with the clouds of heaven, and this is why that I say this is what Jesus is quoting in the Olivet Discourse. And here it is, you can see it with your own eyes. the Son of Man coming with the clouds of heaven. Jesus said, the Son of Man coming in. The only difference is with versus in. Okay, there's no difference. The Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven. This is why I say and insist that Jesus quotes Daniel 7:13 verbatim in the Olivet Discourse. Okay, now just hang on to that. Now, notice that in the dream, that this culminates, the Son of Man comes with the clouds of heaven, the Ancient of Days, and came to the Ancient of Days, they brought him near before him, and there was given him, the Son of Man, dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all peoples, nations and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion which shall not pass away, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed. So, the vision culminates with the reception of the everlasting kingdom. Now, he's going to give the interpretation. And again, the great beasts are four kings, which, as I pointed out, the fourth beast, and that's what Daniel wanted to know about. He wanted to know specifically about this fourth kingdom and the horns, the 10 horns, and the little horn. And this pointed out that the fourth beast is the fourth kingdom. The 10 horns of this fourth kingdom are 10 kings. And then there's this little horn. And we want to notice, I want you to notice that in the interpretation, okay, that the little horn, the same horn, that's the little horn, made war with the saints and prevailed against them until. Do you see that right there? Look at that right there, brethren. Look at that right there, Stephen Whitsett, because you have to deal with this right here. And your listeners, your readers, they're going to press you for an answer to my question on this right here. The little horn made war with the saints and prevailed against them until the Ancient of Days came. And judgment was given to the saints, and the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. Again, this is the interpretation of the dream, the vision, which culminates in the reception of the everlasting kingdom. Do you see that? And the kingdom was established in the 1st century. Okay, I don't think we have any disagreement on that point. But this is what you must see, and that is that the little horn made war with the saints right here, prevailed against them, and this happened for 3.5 years. See that? He shall wear out the saints of the Most High. Do you see that? And this takes place for a time, times, and a dividing of time. That's 3.5 years. I think everybody agrees on that. Nearly everybody will agree on that, that this length of time is 3.5 years. So, what this means is that if the Son of Man coming with the clouds of heaven to the Ancient of Days is the ascension, then since the little horn makes war with the saints and prevails against them for 3.5 years and wears out the saints for 3.5 years until the Ancient of Days came, then that means that this 3.5 year war against the saints by the little horn had to be occurring all during Jesus' ministry. Now, I want the evidence for that. And Stephen, your listeners and your readers, they want the evidence for that. Now you would think, if this were true, that the little horn made war with the saints, prevailed against them until the Ancient of Days came, and that is the ascension, then you would think, if that is true, there'd be some shades of this from the very beginning of the church. Your own words, Stephen. Show us the evidence of this 3.5 year war waged by the little horn against the saints for 3.5 years that happened until the ascension. Now that's your argument, so you need to deal with it. Okay? Now, I want us to look at a couple of other things here that, if we consider Stephen's opinion here, that this is talking about the ascension, then I want you to look, let's look at 2 Thessalonians, excuse me, I'm I wanted to go to, again, back to Matthew 24, rather, again, as we look at Jesus quoting from Daniel 7. And Jesus posits the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory in this generation. Do you see that? This generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. Now remember, Stephen admits that the Olivet Discourse was fulfilled in AD 70. Okay? He admits that. He admitted that last night on John Watson's program. Okay? Now, tell us, show us how that the Son of Man coming with the clouds of heaven is the ascension when Jesus placed it and posited it in the generation, the first century generation, which you admit was fulfilled in AD 70. Now you've got a huge problem here. You have a huge contradiction in this. There's several other things that I could point out. I'm not going to take time for this because I know you're going to come back with a rebuttal, and I'll wait to hear that. And then we'll proceed maybe with a few other thoughts. But I tell you, I just sometimes I just get so frustrated with and lose my patience with these slick-tongued con artists who practice the black arts of deception and sleight of tongue, who expect their listeners to be just complete idiots and gullible enough to swallow down anything they spit out, while they themselves couldn't recognize an exegesis if it slapped them in the face. Now, I want you, the listeners of this video, and I want you to invite your friends to watch this video, and I want all of you to press Stephen Whitsett to answer these questions for you. Why did Jesus quote Daniel 7:13 and say that it would be fulfilled at the destruction of Jerusalem? Why did he quote that verbatim in the Olivet Discourse and say that it would be fulfilled in the destruction of Jerusalem, which Stephen admits the Olivet Discourse is fulfilled in AD 70? Why did Jesus quote that, posit the fulfillment in AD 70, if the Son of Man coming in clouds of heaven was the ascension? Okay? I want the evidence, and I want you to press Stephen for the evidence of this 3.5-year war of the little horn waged against the saints for 3.5 years that had to occur during Jesus' ministry and end at his ascension. Okay? Now, how could the kingdom be established at the ascension? Because the vision culminates with the establishment of the everlasting messianic kingdom. And the angel interprets that. He interprets the Son of Man coming with the clouds of heaven to the Ancient of Days. And that culminates with the reception of the everlasting kingdom. So how could the kingdom be established at the ascension? And why did Jesus say that when you see all of these things, he told his disciples, when you see all of these things, know that the kingdom of God is nigh at hand? You see, Stephen just has several just outright contradictions to the words of Jesus. Okay, now I didn't make that up. You read that for yourself. Okay? How did the judgment occur at the ascension? And explain how that happened when Jesus placed it at the destruction of Jerusalem. How did the judgment occur at the ascension when Jesus placed it at the destruction of Jerusalem? Matthew 25 verses 31 and following, which Stephen admits was fulfilled in AD 70. Okay. Now, again, thank you for your time. And again, all you folks who watch this video, you press Stephen and make him deal with these questions. Make him answer these questions. Not by his opinion. Not by eisegesis. Not by his presuppositional bias. Make him give you scripture. Make him give you evidence of this war of the little horn against the saints for 3.5 years that had to be ongoing during Jesus' ministry if the Son of Man coming in clouds of heaven is the ascension. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. And until the next video, you have a blessed day.